Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Last Best Hope for Conversation, your Babylon 5 podcast. I am Jesse Jackson doing my best Peter Criss impersonation. Beth, I hear you calling, but I can't come home right now. That's for everyone who was in high school with me in the 70s. And anytime we got a cold, that's where we're like, God, we can sound like Peter Criss in Kiss. Making my co-host
That
laugh.
is like the Kiss version of what is that song by Extreme?
Only words can take, right?
That's it. Yes.
Yes, I knew
They're
exactly what you're
one
talking
vowel.
about. Yes, exactly. All right, joining me, as you just heard, is the podcast mom, Karen,
Hello.
and my friend from the north, Lou.
Greetings, warm greetings from the north.
Nice.
Personally, I have other friends from the north, but Lou is my best friend.
Oh.
Yes, absolutely. Someone on Twitter said, do you Americans even know what Tim Horton is? And I said, one, yes, because Kevin Smith always talks about in his podcast. And two, when I was in Winnipeg, I got to go. And every time I went to Winnipeg, I stopped and bought breakfast for the team at Tim Horton.
Timbits.
Yes.
I love Timbits. Yummy.
Absolutely.
Donut holes, in case anyone wonders.
Yes. We are back talking the third episode of season 5 of Babylon 5, the Paragon of Animals, originally aired February 4th, 1998. The title comes from Hamlet, Act 2, Scene 2. When a piece of work is a man, how noble in reason, how infinite in facilities, in form and moving, how express and admirable, in action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals, yet to me, what is this quintessential of dust? And I wish I knew more Shakespeare. I wish I could be the kind of guy that quotes Shakespeare instead of Springsteen. No, I don't. I'm actually very happy to quote Springsteen all the time.
You ruined it for me. I was going to do that quote.
Oh, okay.
But
well, and will you do it as Londo?
No.
Oh, damn it.
Not as Londo.
Right.
No. I don't know. What a piece of work is a man. How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form. I'm sorry, I can't do that. And moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel. In apprehension, how like a god. The beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. I don't know. Did any of that work at all?
It all worked.
Okay.
So well.
I'm terrible. You guys feel free to roast me in the comments.
Not at all. All right, so quick thoughts. This one won a couple of nice little twists. So I'm looking forward to talking about it. So Karen, quick thoughts.
I do want to mention that it doesn't have an homage to the South Korean thrash metal band that also used Paragon of Animals.
Oh, nice.
Thank goodness. And that's just a piece of trivia I found when I looked up stuff.
Okay.
I had no idea that South Korea had thrash metal. So that's a new one on me. I love to learn something new every day.
Nice.
I enjoyed this one as well. I did, however, find some... I feel like some of it is regurgitated.
Okay.
If that makes sense. But I do like the progression of the telepath story.
Okay. We'll have to get into that, what the repetitiveness is, because I have a theory too.
Okay.
But Lou, give me your quick thought, please.
The title is confusing to me based on what happens in the episode. So maybe I need to study the verse a little bit more, because it seems like the telepaths are praising humans, yet their actions are totally against. Their opinions seem to be totally in opposition to what they're saying. So maybe they're inserting themselves into the soliloquy as opposed to regular humans. I don't know. I'm not quite clear on that yet. So
You want me to answer that
sure.
now?
Please do, because I was about to do it, so please.
Okay, when Hamlet mentions the paragon of animals, he's saying that man is the paragon of animals, is better than all other animals. So that's how the Byron, in specific terms, is thinking of telepaths are better than quote unquote normals. And that's his correlation between the two. How like a god, I think, is the line that serves him more than anything else.
And also, according to, I'm looking at IMDb, the line is, "What a piece of work is man, the paragon of animals." The paragon of animals, 6,000 years of brutality, murder, and slavery. An animal does not do this to its own kind. So
Yeah, so
that,
he's talking about normals being bad
yeah,
and telepaths being above all that.
That's
right.
yeah, that's what I was getting out of it. Now I'm looking at the text, and it's like the last couple of lines. And yet to me, what is this quintessence of dust? Man delights not me, no, nor woman neither, though by your smiling you seem to say so. So it's an interesting soliloquy,
It's not
and
perfect,
within the
but
context of that story, I'm of Hamlet. We're obviously more familiar with the to be or not to be one. So this and my Hamlet is this is actually from Krantz and Guildenstern. It's spoken to them. I thought it was that other play that they had done.
yeah, that's
But
a
Mhm.
takeoff of it.
so this Hamlet seems to have a lot of problems with people
Yeah.
based on and I'm sorry, I haven't read Hamlet since high school, so I don't remember all the works here. So with that in mind, I thought it was an okay episode. It's obviously a lot of monologuing and dialoguing and not much in the ways of action. So it's a little stage play, I guess you could say. And
Okay.
though it's not a very like this could almost be a radio drama for the amount of action that's in it, is what I guess is what I'm trying to say. So
Mhm.
it was okay. It was interesting to find out that some of the races are not as are more complex than initially portrayed. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing is up for debate. I think it gives the show more depth that they did that. And I also like the fact that you have Sheridan, who is usually practical, but comes off a bit more as a dreamer in this episode. And Garibaldi who is always a realist, is reminding him of that fact that, yeah, you might have these lofty goals, but you've got to build a solid foundation before you can start doing that stuff. So that was, from that aspect, it was an interesting episode. And we finally got a Garibaldi Sheridan
Mm,
scene,
that's
just the two
right.
of them. I was like, wow, knock me over
Yeah,
with a feather.
and
Exactly.
yes.
It's not the one we wanted
No, it's not.
Mhm.
because they're past it already. We wanted that resolution to the story, and I think skipping over it is interesting.
And by the way, I twice tweeted Mr. Stavinsky and he did not answer my question.
Yeah.
So I was a little sad just because I would have loved for him just to said, yeah, I would have liked to written that too, but I just didn't have we couldn't fit it in.
Yeah, would have been
Um,
nice.
so it would have been, but that's okay. So yeah, let's go to that. So Michael wants to use telepaths. He says that even though the Psychor says you can't use them and there's all against the rules, he says, hey, we've got all these little rogue teleteeps here, and we could use them to help because sooner or later that other side has nukes, so we need to have our own nukes. So when we go to war, we're going to be ready to go. And everyone else, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And that's one of the big storylines, right? Is Garibaldi goes to Byron, he talks to Lita. I do think one of the best lines is, I'll swear I'll never ask you anything again till the next time. which
Hmm.
is so Michael, such a great Michael line. So, Karen, what do you think about this telepath storyline? You said you were happy that it
Yeah,
moved ahead.
this
Talk to
isn't
me a
the
little bit.
repetitive part, by the way. It's the other storyline that I find a
Yes,
little
I agree.
repetitive.
Yes, I agree
Um,
that too.
so let me mention Rosencrantz and Guildenstern again. In Hamlet, they're summoned by the king to spy on their childhood friend, Hamlet. And then Hamlet does the soliloquy to them. And I I wonder how far into that he's JMS is gonna go. Is he setting up Lita to be a spy, or is he setting it up on a more shallow level? Is he just using that to imply that they think they're above humans, or is he actually doing a kind of subliminal? If you've read Hamlet, you get the gist of where this is going. So I'm glad that they're setting it up in this way. If Hamlet, you might get a different feel for it. And of course, now I'm explaining that, so maybe Lou will get that feeling. I don't know. And I think a lot of Hamlet is very existential. And I think that's where we're headed with Lita,
Hmm.
is she's going to have a lot of, again, this is just me
Sure.
projecting. I think that there's going to be, and I used this word in the last podcast, some angst there where she doesn't quite know where she fits in. But I do think that Byron has a compelling argument for her. She's already unhappy with the position she's been placed in, having to do Psychor's bidding. And we're reminded of that because she takes off and puts back on her gloves when she's talking to Garibaldi, which I thought is a pretty good nod to the fact that she's still having to work for Psychor. I also liked seeing the fact that she is also different from the telepaths. She can block her thoughts, and that's something out of the realm of a normal telepath. So they're showing how she's different but the same. And I think
Hmm.
there's a lot of levels to that story. I may be reading into it, but I'm hoping that we do get that nuance. I think Byron is still creepy. I get a very creepy vibe to him.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know what you guys think, but he's a little on the slimy side. And we see a little more about Byron's motivations. And also, we talked about in the episode where Sheridan goes behind Babylon 5's back and allows them to set up little
Right.
home area here, that part of it is because he wants to keep an eye on them.
Right.
And so that's nice to know that he's thinking ahead,
Right.
because we wondered, hey, why is he letting them on the ship? He knows this is coming. And now we see more of his motivation, which is cool. I think there's going to be lots of layers to this, like I said, and I'm hoping we get a nuanced story out of it.
Okay. Good. Lou, by the way, I do not remember Hamlet whatsoever. I don't think I've ever read it.
I've
So
read
this
it
is all.
twice.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's because I had to. I switched high schools. I moved across the country just before my junior year. So I did
Hmm.
2 years in California and 2 years in Virginia. I read it as a sophomore, and then I had to read it again as a junior.
Okay.
So I am quite familiar. I had to look up to refresh myself, but I did remember that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern were spies sent to give information to the king. So
Okay. I wonder now I want to go watch Olivia's version of Hamlet, which won an Academy Award, right?
it's
So,
okay.
okay.
The movie's better than reading it, definitely.
Okay.
Shakespeare is hard to read.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. Lou, how about you?
What was the question?
What did we think of
Telepath
the
story. The
telepath
telepath
story?
Okay.
story.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
That's no, it's okay. I see interesting possibilities with it, but I think Karen's kind of hit issue that the central issue that I'm having with the storyline is with Byron is they came in the previous episode begging to be able to stay on the station, and then they come into this episode and they're acting all high and mighty. They don't really seem very grateful for the fact that they've been given accommodations on the station. They don't act like refugees. If they had been on the run as long as they said, then their behaviors are not in line with their situation. However, you could argue on the other side, that's just the natural tendency of telepaths when they deal with humans. So it's six of one, half a dozen the other. How I'm feeling about it now, but I'll have to see how it plays out, and that will be interesting since we know that this storyline is controversial among the fandom. So I'll have to see how that plays out. I do have to say that I think this was probably the actor that plays Lita, that I think this was her strongest episode. She showed a much more nuance and subtlety in her reactions to things, like her conversation with Garibaldi and then her conversations with Byron. I thought she actually showed some good range, which was surprising to me. So I have to give her props. I thought this was her best episode to date. And knowing the history of her character, she's in a difficult situation, and I don't doesn't she have to report to Psychor the fact that there's
Yes, sir.
telepaths on Babylon 5? Is that not a
I would
thing?
assume. I don't
So
know if she wants to,
Right.
so maybe she's holding that
But
information
even
back.
if she
She's
doesn't, the
supposed to.
yeah, but even if she doesn't, the regular citizens of Babylon 5 are going to know that there's this
Right.
group of
yeah.
weird people. So that will be interesting to see. So I'm really curious to see, and I assume Bester is back this season, what the dynamics is of his character is going to be with this whole situation. And Sheridan's made it pretty clear to us in conversations last season, and I think, and then now in this season again with this episode specifically, with talking to, I think it was Garibaldi, or maybe it was when everybody was there, that telepaths are going to be an issue going forward for them. The parameters of the season are being laid out pretty clearly now, and I guess the main thing I'm carrying away from this is how standoffish the telepaths are acting. When Garibaldi walks into their area, nobody will talk to him. They're all looking at him like he's a lower life form and just being really rude, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm very curious to see where this is going. And it seems like there's going to be a conflict, not just with the Psychor telepaths, but with the Babylon 5 telepaths too. Sheridan's dealing with a live grenade, that's for sure. And yeah, I'm just sitting back and we'll see how this plays out. But for the first time, I'm actually interested in what Lita's gonna be up to this season. I think she's in a very difficult and unique position that nobody else can really understand.
so here's my best thought, and I do not know if I'm correct. But I think she doesn't work for the Psi Corps. She is a member of think of it as the Psi Corps Union. So therefore, she is authorized to work independently. She has, because that's why she has to wear the gloves and the symbol, but she doesn't work directly for them. She just has the right to, when they reach out to her to hire her, they're allowed to say, yes, she has, you're not, she's covered by the telepath contract or something.
Hmm.
That's how I look at it, which is because before she couldn't get any work because she's unauthorized. So
Right.
that's how I view it as. Don't know if that's necessarily correct, but so we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I do think she may not tell Bester, but word is going to get out there, and I don't
Sure.
think he's going to be happy,
I
No.
right?
think that might be an interesting thing. Going into this season, we knew that there was going to be a telepath war. and I'm doing air quotes. I don't
Yeah.
know the extent to which that's going to happen, but I assumed that Bester was going to be behind it because he's already hinted at that. But it looks
Yeah.
like it's going to be these slime balls with Byron heading them that's going to initiate. And
Yeah.
he's not in with Bester.
Hmm.
So where is that going to come from? It's very intriguing to me.
Yeah. And so I agree. I am not a fan of the actor playing Byron. I don't
Thank
know
you.
why. I
I
just
don't know
don't.
either.
I just don't know if it's the
The hair.
as someone said, the Clara
Hey,
hair, right?
Yeah.
I like long hair. I do on a guy.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the messiness but his is, I don't know. He's just weird. I don't think it has anything to do with, in my estimation, it's not his hair.
Yeah.
I just think it's his character is gross.
Hmm. Yeah. And so we'll see what happens. But I just, it doesn't quite work for me. So we'll see what happens.
What
The
specifically are you talking about when you say that? It doesn't quite work for me.
Him, I don't support him. I don't understand why Lita would be drawn to him. Like at
Yeah,
the end, she
he
goes
doesn't
and
have charisma.
right. And she's sitting there, hey, I want to know more about this. And I don't
Right,
understand how, because I think in a lot of ways, if you're going to be this head of this, you should have that that
right,
charisma.
right,
Yeah.
And
right.
I don't think he does.
Yeah, and another point about her wanting to find out more about them, it seems weird, especially in the light of the fact she was complaining the whole episode that people take her for granted, and yet Sheridan took the moment to say thank you. You've saved a lot of lives today,
Yeah,
and gave her a moment of respect. So you thought that's what she was been looking for, and yet still she wants to talk to Byron.
it's
Kind of
just
Yeah.
weird.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I just don't quite know
My
where that's
only
going to
thing
go.
is it makes sense if she's planning on playing both sides, but I
Yeah.
don't know how it's written. I cannot find anything compelling about that character.
Yeah, I don't see it yet either. So we'll see what happens.
And to the actor
But
out there, sorry, that's just
Yeah,
yeah, absolutely.
might be a nice guy. You're probably a nice guy in real life, but
And
we can only react by what we're seeing on the screen.
yeah, and I just bought the newest version as I'm showing this. Patricia Tallman she updated her book and Pleasure Thresholds, and she updated it recently, and I just picked it up talking about her. And I subscribe to her blog and everything, so I really like her and I'm glad you felt like she's doing better because I do know, Lou, you've had concern about her role so far.
Yeah.
Just not the person, but the character and the way it's done. So
Hmm.
that's good.
I want to
Go ahead.
mention the actor's name
Yeah.
is Robin Atkin Downs, and he switched about halfway through his career to voiceover work. I think
Hmm.
that he does a great job with that. He does a lot of villain voices in video games and animation.
Interesting.
He played several, again, take a drink. He did several roles in Diablo and World of Warcraft, both Blizzard IPs. And so I've heard his voice. Of course, I did not put that together because I only saw
Hmm.
him recently in this. But I think it's cool that he switched. And I'm not saying anything about his acting ability. I'm saying it's cool that now he does voiceover work, that something he excels at. So I'm giving a compliment now to the actor because we hated on him.
And to be even more shallow, there's a picture on IMDb that him a little bit older and he has the goatee with the long hair. I think it works. I think he looks
Okay.
really good.
Okay.
I think it looks really nice. Good for him. I know he played aliens. I'm trying to look previously in Babylon 5 that
Oh,
he was
okay.
under makeup
Mm.
and they really liked his performance. And so
Okay.
that's why when they gave the chance to have this, we'll keep watching it and see what you guys think. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. The storyline that they end up, Michael is right. Because of this intelligence they get, they're able to, and we talk about the other storyline. Some of the races, some of the worlds don't want to sign basically their Bill of Rights, their Declaration of Independence, their Constitution, whatever you want to do. And when Sheridan is having to try to convince them, and I am so glad you brought it up because isn't this how he had everyone sign the treaty that he had to manipulate people? So this does feel like rinse and repeat. And
Mm-hmm.
Karen, is this the storyline you were discussing?
Yep.
And if so, please expand.
Yeah, it seems like they've done this before, and I don't think it's one particular story that they're recycling. I think it's
Yeah.
just the feel of this story. Hey, we're going to subvert the bad guy by getting there before them and threatening them. I feel like they've done this several times before, this kind of move. And I do appreciate that it's in connection to them signing this treaty. So it is a tiny bit different, that there's different facets to the storyline in this episode. But I can't help thinking, okay, we've done this already. Let's get into, what Jakar's doing and how it's going to affect the united worlds, instead of this kind of, hey, we're gonna betray everyone and go behind their back. And is the Drazi gonna become now this kind of sleazy? I feel like this entire episode is about sleazy people going behind people's backs. Byron does it and the Drazi does it. And to me, it
That's a
just
great
feels
alternative title.
Yeah.
right. Sleazy people.
Going behind people's backs.
Yeah, sleazy people going behind people's backs. That's a great title.
I have to remember that because I don't know if you guys have noticed. I've been trying to on the iTunes and things like I've been trying
Or
to do
blah
an
blah blah.
blurb
Yeah.
and yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to use that
sleazy,
blurb. I'm going to use that blurb in my
yeah,
Twitter
sleazy
post.
people going
Okay.
behind
Awesome.
people's back.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I
Yeah,
love it.
because it's a mirror. Yeah, I do like storylines that mirror each other.
Yeah,
And I do feel like it's a lot about betrayal in
yes,
this episode. And they have to jump in and save the day with a race that isn't as technologically advanced, which is something that it's not just on Babylon 5, but this is used over and over again in science fiction. I would have liked a new spin on it. Maybe they had a technology that is useful, and that's why they're becoming this race that is put upon, and it made more of a impact on the storyline instead of just, hey, they've got some resources. Duh, everybody's got resources.
yeah,
And the one thing I liked about that storyline, though, loved about that storyline, and I don't think this will be a surprise to anyone, is we got a lot of Jakar.
yeah,
And Jakar in his element. He is now becoming this prophet, and I think it's in many different ways. To the Narn, he is someone like a savior, and he was a
yes,
martyr, that Jesus figure of being crucified on the cross and being resurrected. But he's also an orator and a Jefferson kind of figure, also
yes,
writing this Constitution, Bill of Rights kind of
yeah,
thing. I really love that. I love how much he's appreciated. And and the little thing at the end where he comes in and we're going to have to sign it again. It's better. And Sheridan's, oh, come on. And then he reads it. He's right. It's better. I really dug that part of the storyline. So the
Mhm.
Drazi and the rest of it I loved.
yeah. Lou,
I especially like the Jakar storyline too, and I'm a big fan of the craft of writing. So when JMS takes shots at writers a little bit in this episode, I appreciate the self-deprecation that he's doing there. and take a drink. One of my favorite things that Stephen King does in many of his stories is somehow work in the craft of writing as well and the creative process. So seeing Jakar, going through edits of this Bill of Rights, I thought was I just love that kind of stuff. So I was totally into the whole creative process that he was going through drafting up these Bill of Rights. And actually, the first draft that Sheridan read out loud to DeLynn was a very nice piece of writing, and I thought that JMS should be commended for that. I thought that was a very moving Bill of Rights, and
Yeah.
it was really well done.
So I have it up here, and what has happened, according to people online, that many people who are getting married choose this as a non-denominational reading, and it
Hmm.
is the universe speaks in many languages, but only one voice. It speaks in the language of hope. It speaks in the language of trust. It speaks in the language of strength and the language of compassion. It is the language of the heart and the language of the soul. And as always, it is the same voice. It is the voice of our ancestors speaking through us, and the voice of our inheritors waiting to be born, in the still voice that says we are one, no matter the blood, no matter the skin, no matter the word, we are one. No matter the pain, no matter the darkness, no matter the loss, no matter the fear, we are one. Here gathered together in common cause, we agree to recognize the singular truth and the singular rule. We must be kind to one another.
Yeah.
And I will not continue, but it is well worth
Hmm.
reading, and especially as Karen and I are both American citizens, and Lou is very acknowledges as a Canadian, he follows American politics during this time period. I think across the world, that's words well said.
Right.
Yes,
So
And
yeah,
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
wish people would take that to heart more.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
There's a lot of people that don't follow that. I also
yeah,
like the fact that Sheridan starts reading it, Jakar takes over, and then Sheridan finishes.
yeah.
I love that. And the whole "We Are One" that is repeated several times.
Yeah.
It's great.
And the
Especially like when Sheridan wants to talk to Jakar. Jakar says, "Not now. My muse is calling."
Yep.
yes,
I love
Okay.
that.
As soon as we're done with Jakara's muse.
yeah, and there is I think JMS mentioned in Lurkers that the way it worked out when he says my muse is talking, the credits show JMS written by.
Mm,
He said, which was not on purpose, or maybe it was by the people doing that. But yeah, I love one of the things that I am so thrilled you guys have got to enjoy on this journey. And I believe when we summed up the first four seasons, you guys had shared what you liked about the series and what you didn't care for the series. And there is certainly holes in this series that are very fair for people to criticize. But one of the things that covers a lot of the flaws is the character arc of Jakar, who you think is going to the villain in the pilot, who becomes this messianic figure, this
hmm
voice of compassion and love.
Hmm.
And Londo being the fool, the drunkard, becoming, as you guys have said, almost the Hitler character
Yep.
that I didn't see coming.
Right.
And that journey, like, oh, wow, okay, that's fun that they were able to do that.
There's a
So,
couple of exchanges between Londo and Jakar.
yeah.
I loved it where Londo says, "Oh, offer them my body. Another 10 minutes of this, I'll be dead anyway." And Jakar says, "I second the motion," Jakar says.
Yes.
And Londo says, "I would remind the Drazi ambassador that the Centauri Republic has already signed the declaration." And Jakar says, "If the Centauri can sign it, anyone can sign it." And Londo says, "That's true. Wait a minute."
Yeah. Yeah,
It's just great. I love their interactions.
I do. I do think it's interesting and a little cheesy when Sheridan has that he's messed up, he's ruined their surprise. And now then there's all the white stars. How many white stars? All of them are
Hmm
waiting. And when those Drazies come out, they're just going to destroy them.
Right.
And it's these thousands, if not Yeah, thousands of people are going to die. And the ambassador's, no, wait,
I'll
please.
sign. I'll sign.
Yeah, and it's too little too late, buddy.
Yeah.
But they were kinder to him. So I like, and it does show that sometimes Sheridan is not afraid of breaking a few eggs, right? And
Mhm.
changing it. He is not always the best character.
Yeah.
And he certainly, I believe, the end justifies the means,
Would
which
he have
is,
actually killed all those Drazi?
I don't know.
In my mind, that is against his character.
Yeah,
That if he's just threatening them, that's fine. But if he
yeah,
really was going to go through with it, that to me, that's not
yeah.
great.
That's not your Sheridan, right? Anything else that we need to talk about this one?
I did
Garibaldi.
the scene with Lita and the Ranger,
Oh
Yes.
and when
yeah,
he
yeah.
passed and went into the portal or the white
Yeah.
light, whatever you want to call it. I liked that conversation and thought that Lita played that scene. I would have actually wouldn't even have minded a tear or two at the conclusion
Hmm.
of that, but or just if she would have looked a little visibly shaken.
Yeah.
But I guess she's got her controls in place pretty rigidly. But yeah, I just thought that was a really nice scene, and the Ranger imploring her to not let his death be for nothing was nicely done.
And I thought her talking to Michael about one of the reasons why perhaps Bester is so devoid of humanity is
Yes,
he's done this too often,
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
right? And that because there's that wonderful scene in MASH where it's a documentary style.
Mm.
yes, yeah,
And
The two-parter. I love that.
yeah, and the actor Harry Morgan, who played Colonel Potter,
right.
says when it's really cold, I will see the surgeons after cutting into the body put their hand over the steam that's coming
Wasn't
from
that
the
Father
body.
Father Mulcahy? I thought.
Or maybe it
It
was
might
Father
have
Mulcahy,
been.
yes, and warm it, yes.
Yes,
He
yes,
says, how
yep.
could anyone not
Be
your
changed by that.
perspective not changed? Yes,
Yeah,
it
Right.
yeah,
was Father Mulcahy. Thank you.
yes.
So
Appreciate that.
let me ask
And
a question
sure,
about
please.
that, about Bester. She does mention that he went too far. So I'm guessing it means that he tried to follow whoever it was that was dying into their afterlife, that he
I don't,
Or
reached
just
yeah,
hung on too
reached
long.
this
Maybe it was
right.
his love,
yeah.
a
Yeah,
previous
that
love
could
or
be
something.
too.
Maybe.
And
Hmm.
to Lou's point, I do think that she is struggling, but the reason we don't get tears from her is, like you said, she has that wall up and she can't let any emotion through or she'll break. And the next scene with her is when Garibaldi comes to talk to her and she is distracted until Garibaldi kind of, hey, he prompts her to listen. And I feel like that's her struggling to get back to her baseline. So I do think she was very much shaken out of it. She doesn't show it in the terms that we would, someone dying
Hmm.
that we're connected with, but I think that it's within her character because she has those walls and they're very high up.
So I apologize if this in advance, if this skews your viewing, but many fans who are a fan of Patricia Tallman and that character feel like they feel the same way you do about Garibaldi, Michael. They feel like she is treated poorly by the writing and that the not the cast, but the actual members of the command staff in the station
Hmm.
use her. And I think the character, like, you guys only come see me when you need something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And we go back to they made her move into a smaller quarters.
right.
They treated her, and I think that was why it was huge. Sheridan saying thank you
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he hasn't done much of that. And so I think that might be the right reason why, if I fill in the lines, why she's going to Byron is she is looking for, she couldn't find acceptance or a family in the
She's just
psych
trying to find a
wards.
place to belong.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's where we need this. So
Yeah, she
yeah.
doesn't belong with telepaths and she doesn't belong with normals, and I put air quotes around it.
Yeah.
That's what they're calling them, right? Normals.
Yes. Yes.
She is trying to fit in and she's also trying to find validation
Yeah.
and maybe a little bit of redemption because I think she feels guilty about the actions of Kosh.
Yeah, and remember she is a abuse
Yeah,
survivor, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
of Kosh and
Yeah.
Olkesh.
Yeah. She's been banished, so she's
Yeah.
Yeah,
feeling very isolated. Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other thoughts?
About the rest of the episode,
Yeah.
and I did the scene with Garibaldi and Sheridan that I mentioned when Garibaldi
Yeah.
was giving Sheridan a reality check, saying, "Dude, you got to get the foundation laid before you can start adding the fancy hanging lights and
Yeah.
whatnot." I thought that was a good scene, and I think that Sheridan is beginning to realize that being the president of the alliance is not as going to be as easy a task as he thought. Like they say, conquest is easy, control is hard.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm. I
Okay.
appreciate also that Michael shows up outside the negotiation and Sheridan's having a hard time in there and he holds his finger up like a gun. Oh,
Yeah.
I
yeah,
feel like I want to shoot myself. And that's a little nod to them having a friendship again. And
Yeah.
I will emphasize again because it is so important to me. I wanted to see how they got there, and we didn't get that. And so it feels like to me it's not a resolved story.
Okay.
Um,
ditto.
yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. What I do agree, I'm glad you already brought that up, Karen, that first off, I think it's a little silly that they're having to sign ceremonial and scrolls. That's a little silly. It looks pretty, but that would
sure.
be
Although, do they want a paper trail? That might
well,
be part of it.
but then
But
wouldn't it be one? Do you because it's like everyone signed it and gave it, and then they've got them. So how are they going to collate them all to one?
they also doing an electronic version of it. That's what we would do now, right? I mean, we
Right.
sign leases online and contracts online now, and those are just as binding as on paper. But again, back in
Yeah.
the 90s, we weren't doing that yet.
Yeah. So
So,
yeah. And yes, it is funny when he goes, "It is better, damn it." Yes,
yeah.
it's really good. Okay, if we don't have any other thoughts, let's give ratings. And I think it's Lou's turn to go first.
I'm going to give this, like I said, it was lacking in action, so that like it was a lot of telling and not much showing. So I'm down on that always. I'm going to give it 7 muses.
Okay, Karen.
I'm gonna go a little higher. 7.5 white lights.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with Karen. I'm going to give it 7.5 letters to the parents. I thought that was a nice little thing
Hmm.
in the background
Oh
where
yeah.
you saw Franklin having the picture. You could see on the screen he is writing a letter
Yeah.
to,
To the Rangers
yeah,
family.
to the Rangers. Your son served with honor and died bringing us news that may help to save the lives of literally thousands of people we did not know, but whose lives mattered more to him than his own. I
Yeah,
thought
that's
that was
good.
really sweet and very cool. All
And
right.
again, we're getting a good trail of Franklin.
Yeah, and I'm
Again, this
glad about that
episode.
because we've all talked about how much we really enjoyed the actors in other things,
Yeah.
and he was one of the first people that Babylon in the Babylon family they lost. So yeah, I'm glad to see that.
And in such
Uh,
a sudden way too. He had
yes,
an
absolutely.
embolism.
Yes.
Um,
All right. And so I believe Texas sent us feedback. Do you want to share it, Karen?
did. Yeah, so hi Texas. Thank you for the feedback. And he says Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was the Interstellar Alliance, but it does seem like it could all be unmade in a day. The issue is whether or not the Alliance can impose guidelines on the member worlds. That's the point. Delenn said when they announced the alliance that members would agree to conduct themselves in a certain manner as a condition of membership. If they don't want to do that, they're free to go their own way. But they don't want to do that because the alliance has cool stuff that they want. And if they don't join, they'll miss out, and everyone else will have the cool stuff except them. But they don't want to have rules, so they try to turn the table and accuse the alliance of lording morality over them. In other words, same old. In the meantime, Garibaldi's attempts to create the covert intelligence division leads him to trying to recruit some of Byron's telepaths. It doesn't go over well, and the discussion Byron has about what it's like to be a telepath is interesting, though I do take some issue with some of his points. When he says that they have to tromp down on their abilities to keep from accidentally violating the privacy of mundanes. Personally, if I could read minds, I would try to keep a lid on it as much as possible because I don't want to read everyone's mind. It would be annoying, distracting, and disturbing. I gotta agree with that, Texas. It does eventually lead to the big reveal when Byron, quote unquote, overhears the Drazi ambassador's thoughts and finds out they're actually sponsoring the raiders that have been terrorizing smaller worlds along their border, putting the lie to their earlier claims that they have never subjugated other worlds, and giving Sheridan the impetus he needs to quell and further opposition to signing the Declaration of Principles. On that topic, what did you think of it? Andreas Katsulas nails the monologue, of course, but as to the actual subject matter, it seems a little overly poetic and sentimental for what is supposed to be the prelude to what is essentially the Alliance's constitution. I'd prefer something a little more direct and authoritative. And then we also have that interesting tidbit about what it's like to read a dying man's mind. I could probably write an entire essay about that, but this is long enough already. Anyway, until the next time when we discuss the market price of SPOO. Alrighty. This is the Texas on the Shock signing off. I gotta say, as to your question, our Declaration of Independence is a little flowery at the beginning, too. So I don't think it's too out of the realm of possibility, but I get what he's saying.
Yeah, I always think of the excellent movie 1776 based on
Oh
the
God, I
Broadway
love that
play.
movie.
Yeah, I do too, where they talk about we need to write down to explain for the whole world to see why we're doing this. Yeah. All right. As we talked about, we are playing catch up. There has not been a chance for anyone to post things on our YouTube channel for last week's discussion, The Long Night of Londo Mollari. But if someone did want to go and post something about this so that we could catch up in next week's discussion, how could they, Lou?
They could either send an email to our mailbox, which I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure one of you do.
JKLB5podcast@gmail.com.
Or you can just go to the YouTube channel, Lou's Reviews, and you'll find the Babylon 5 podcast there, along with my writer's podcast, my Stephen King podcast, and our JKL Media podcast, where we cover off things of pop culture, one-off series, music, comics, and because Karen mentioned it last episode, I'll mention it again. We even reviewed Barbie. And along with that, we have also done things like Station 11 and Midnight Mass and Bruce Springsteen and even Little Steve. So check it out. And on Twitter, you can find me at Lou W. Sytsma, Sytsma.
We got some older movies, some classic movies coming up, I think. And also we're
Yes.
going to do the Bly Manor series. So watch for those as well.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Karen, how about yourself?
I'm at Oliveria on the various social media sites. And my blog is alliestuff.com, at which you can find a bunch of links that I find interesting, and you might too.
I am at Jesse Jackson DFW on Twitter, aka X. I am going through the Perfectly Good podcast. John Hyatt, alphabetical order. Have we finished the H's? We're now on I's, and we are always looking for guests to join us on that podcast. It's even okay if you aren't a John Hyatt fan. We only pick one song and we break it down, the lyrics of the song each week. So you can just pick a song, email me with a link, and I can send it where it is located, and you can look and see what songs we've got coming up, and we'd love to have people discussion. I'm still talking music on Set Listing Bruce, and Charles and I just hit our 10th anniversary for Next Stop Everywhere, where I'm talking Doctor Who with Charles. That's where I am at when I'm not here with two of my best friends talking about all kinds of fun, nifty, geeky stuff.
You're my
So,
best friend too.
oh, yes, Cindy, the love.
Best
So,
friends forever.
absolutely. Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lou.
Live long and prosper.
Absolutely. So, everyone, remember to be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And scene.